Hello, everybody. My name is Tony. I am the founder of MetaOpAI. It's basically an AI services that extracts signal intelligence from users' journal entries and basically is able to formulate patterns. And really, how it works is kind of like users are able to create different spaces of their lives. They're able to journal about those different things. The AI will extract signals. Those signals are then stored in the KRL, which is a dimensional typed graph like storage, structured storage for persistent storage. And from that point on, we're able to then take those structured storage, send it over to the LLM to compose an actual precise prompt, and then that is routed to the LLM. So basically, how it works here, just to go over the UI, we have different aspects of your life, which is you may have a work, relationship, family, friends. Maybe you're in a pickleball group, and or maybe you're doing just like reflective, just other thoughts. And it really how it works is you're basically able to add the people in your lives right here. Just basically click end, just add this little entry, go through an AI builder, and you're basically going to create these types of people, like people in your lives. You'll be able to click on space. You'll then be able to add those people to the space. Like, hey, I'm adding my coworker David, and then once they're added to the space, you're then able to go into the journal, and then from here you could write like your journal entries. Like for example, today I was in stand up, and at Mike, you use the at button to actually pull the context in for the user because users are global, or not users, entities. And basically, once you pull that context in, so now the AI is going to basically understand who Mike is and all historical context of Mike. And then from this point on, you could add narrations to it. So I could be like, hey, today I was at stand up and Mike was rude to me. And now what happens because you're pulling that context in and now you're adding an appending to it, the AI is going to be able to extract the signal from this and then append it back to Mike's profile with the actual signal. It doesn't override it, it appends the new signal to it. And then I'm going to go ahead and click enter. The AI is listening, it's just going to respond. It's going to give you some careful feedback. And it's basically going to say, like, hey, I want to sit with this carefully. You mentioned that today in stand up, Mike was rude to you. While I don't have a strong pattern read on Mike yet, it is clear that his behavior is affecting you. Given that limited history to compare against, how do you feel this incident fits in your broader experience with him at work? And notice that the two signals that were extracted, Mike was rude to user during stand-up. User feels frustrated by Mike's rudeness in the stand-up. And one of the things you could also do here, and keep in mind, the more longer you use the system, the more signals extracted, the more these signals will then turn into patterns eventually. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on this little signal board. And this basically shows that these are things are popping up. You see Mike with work. Some signals are popping up here. I guess I could filter on that. And you start seeing that these things are going to start populating. Right now it's 2:24 p.m. And that entry was about 2:23 p.m. on June 6th. And you can see that it pops up here for signal from Mike. And because it's filtered right now for type, I could change that filter, but I just have it there. Now I'm going to go back into the actual journal, and I'm going to click here, click on work, click on journal. And what I'm going to do real quick, I'm just going to write, okay, show me all the patterns observed in this space. And now I'm asking the AI to basically show me all the signals and all the stuff that it observed, just to show you that in this workplace setting, there's a pattern called missing empathy pattern with moderate confidence. The pattern indicates that when you've shown vulnerability or expressed difficulties, the expected empathy or support hasn't been present. And this was observed with Mike. We're on June 6th. He was rude to you during a stand-up. You felt frustrated by his interruptions. Additionally, David's presence has made you hesitant to share ideas, which add to the tension. The signal observed recently includes the June 6th one, the one I just did with you guys. And then on June 5th, you experienced a frustration due to competitive dynamics at work and lack of concrete feedback from Carlos. This pattern is missing empathy and reoccurring frustration response suggests a challenging environment where support and understanding might be lacking. How does this align with your overall experience at work, and is this a specific aspect you'd like to further explore? And as you can see, the AI with you, or you're basically having these substantive conversations, and which is pretty cool. You can click commit to timeline, and it's going to just add that to your timeline. And then you can look at your timeline history. All your past conversations are like journal entries. They're like different pages. You could actually go back and read up on it, or you could resume the thread, and it will populate it to the top. I'm just going to go back to the journal entry here. Go click on that again and just show you the timeline. And you could actually do this really cool feature. You could click on all these different features here and basically throw it into an analytics, and it's able to correlate these 3 different events at different epochs and basically pull out some patterns or anomaly, and you could actually follow up and have a substantive conversation about that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and click out because we're modeling the users. And if I click on here, I click on, I think Mike was the one I just modeled. You could see that because we're modeling the users and we click on entity reports, you start seeing signal breakdowns. You could generate all these different feedbacks here. But the reason why I brought this up is because if you go back into the journal, you have the ability with this feature that I added called outcome, where you can actually predict analysis, do predictive analysis, because you're modeling people based off your own user narrations. And you could do this to kind of brainstorm and how to like throw scenarios, what if scenarios, and you have this narration of this person in a digital format, and now you could use those imaginative scenarios to see how this person would react. And you could validate that. You could use past experiences and preface it as a what if scenario and see how they would react. So if I could come here and say like, hey, you know, what if I have a direct conversation with, what if I have a direct conversation with @Mike about the rudeness, about him being rude. And it will look at the possible outcomes, and then you see it rates the 60%, 30%, 10%, and you can do follow-up conversations with that. Like a direct conversation with Mike would lead to a temporary improvement in behavior, especially if you approach it with a specific example and a focus on collaboration rather than confrontation. And then given his recent patterns of rudeness and interruption, there is a chance he may not fully realize the impact of his actions. The scenario assumed he's receptive to feedback and desires to maintain a functional work relationship. However, considering the frequency of his interruptions, this change might not be lasting without ongoing reinforcement. So this is kind of like the ability to break it down and have these different percentage groups where you could see 60%, 30%, 10%. It's like kind of like a game theory scenario. This is extremely useful because we are modeling users or entities based on the user narration. This changes your traditional journal and it makes it to a signal intelligence app, which is pretty cool. And with that, you can actually look at other cool stuff. Like we have all these different spaces in your life. You can actually do cross-space analysis. You can come here and import them, like different modules, like hey, work, and find me common patterns in work. I don't have much data, and with people as well. Hashtag work and relationships, because I don't have much data. And it's going to just basically look for common patterns between work and relationship. And I noticed that both spaces have frustration due to communication challenges at work. You've experienced interruptions and lack of clarity from colleagues like Mike and Carlos, which echoes your frustration you feel about ongoing miscommunications with Sarah in your relationship. And the AI is now able to do cross-space analysis across your life. And now you're able to see your life from a whole perspective. You can import all aspects of your life and gather those analysis if you need be, or you could just talk about other people. Like I could then go into detail with Mike, Sarah, and so forth. And this is pretty much a cross-space analysis feature. Also, as you generate signals and patterns, these signals turn into patterns and different variations of patterns. They have combined patterns, recurrent patterns, and so forth. You're able to come over here and see them in real time as they populate. Now, this is all fine and well, but really what we want to do is talk about the user profile. You can see that as you're journaling, you have all the different volumes where data is being written, your top 5 spaces, top 5 entities. These are the people in your lives. You see that you have the ability to track behavioral analytics, and it's capturing the type and rhythm, the response latency, stress fingerprints, and sloppiness drift, and a whole bunch of other analytics as it captures all this content. So this is actually really cool, really interesting. I'm going to go back up and I'm going to click on the Carol Explorer. So this is the most important thing. The Carol Explorer is the ability to have all these different patterns, and you can see that they're extracted from you and relationships and so forth. And you can basically click on one of these patterns here. It'll show you like the definition of what this pattern really means, and the process from when it was triggered, withdrawal, all that stuff, to interpreted, reoccurred, spread, confirmed, and crystallized. This is a representation of the Carol Explorer that we built. Basically, it has the dimensions: users, entities, spaces, and relationships. These are the ontology of the journal. And then you could see that there's different contexts here. You have signal, event, context, and meta context. The signals are the observation. Events are kind of like what happened. Contexts are the factual aspect. In a sea of user narrations, it's very difficult to obtain facts. But if you say something like, "Hey, I am a security engineer," or "I am so," we would believe that to be a fact. The meta context to the fact is the ability of the user's interpretation of that fact. I know it sounds kind of interesting, but if you think about like a cup of water, like a glass of water that has 4 ounces of water inside, I may refer to that water as half empty, where you may be saying, "Hey, that's half full." We're both describing the same amount of water. It doesn't change the 4 ounces in the glass, but it is in fact our narrations or interpretations of such water, and that's what we're capturing for the meta context. And that's kind of what the KRL formation is. It shows you how that pattern is kind of formed. And what we want to do is we're going to click on the show full evidence chain, and now you can see the actual evidence chain of like, hey, there were some conversations that were happening prior in March, and it's capturing all that content here, which is pretty cool. So, and then you can see everything in full. Now, if you go back to the KRL Explorer, I'm going to go back to the back, and I'll go back into the KRL. There's also the Graph Explorer. The Graph Explorer is pretty cool because it shows you where everybody are situated in your life. So you have the people in your life, you have your spaces, and then you have you. And basically I could drag all these people here, like pick a ball, or like, hey, look, Sarah's in 2 different spaces, my reflective space and also my relationship space. But if you look at work, there's all the people at my job. You can see there's a user narration, shows me how many signals, events, and so forth. And then also you can look at Mike, the recent profile we don't have a lot of content for the AI to produce content for it as of yet, because there's only 4 signals and about 10 events. And over more general narrations involving Mike, it's going to produce that summarized version of who Mike is from an AI perspective. And you can see that from here, you have good insight about the people in your lives and how they're observed and how it's modeled. And this is pretty much what the MetaOpAI is really trying to bring. We're basically an AI signal intelligence app that leverages, it's kind of like a Bloomberg Terminal or like Palantir in a lot of ways, but it's for everyday people. And the reason really where it comes from is it's the very essence of being understood. We interpret our world through the people around us, and if we have a deep understanding of who they are, it makes we operate with more clarity, and from clarity we bring peace of mind. For example, having a pattern and observing a pattern that we weren't really too familiar with, we can then be able to adjust and pivot and be able to work with those people and win together. And I think that that's kind of like the key to this is just to understand people, and that understanding people will also help you to be understood, because now you could be able to pivot and adapt. And I think, and that brings peace of mind, believe it or not. And I think that this really is the first, I could think of the first AI signal intelligence app, that's going to be coming out in the marketplace in app stores and the Play Store soon. MetaOpAI, we're already as Apple developers accepted our LLC as an organization. We already acquired our equipment, and we're ready to get this formulated on the App Store. Right now, we're just in the process of beta testing and getting people on board and more acclimated to what AI signal intelligence is and how it could benefit their lives. And I really want to thank everybody. My name is Tony. I have about 15 years of security engineering experience across the entire like industry within cybersecurity. I've in the last 4 years, I think I've been working in financial space, so global financial banks, secure and AI infrastructure builds, and yeah, and I've built a side project that I think is extremely informative, and I use it to help me navigate the difficulties in my personal life as well as my professional life. And I hopefully this brings some clarity to you guys. If you guys do dig what we do, hit us up. You can hit us up at support@MetaOpAI, or you can check out the app directly at MetaOpAI, and then create an account and just jump in. Everything's still connected to the sandbox, so there is no billing to this as of yet. We're just still trying to figure out everything right now. We just want to get some feedback, so really appreciate that. Thank you very much. You guys have a great day.